Okay, it's on. Hello guys. So sorry for a long time without any videos. This week has been, well, I had 3 30 markers, including one in Spanish. And I also was campaigning for student union, and I was I also went to university taste today. And I've just been really tired. So sorry for a long time without any videos, but I'm back, and today is going to be a video on languages. Yay! So at GCSE, I did Spanish and Italian. Italian, I used to live there when I was younger, so I spoke it when I was younger, but I forgot it a bit. So I didn't do the lessons, but I did the exam. But I had to teach myself and do work by myself. But anyway, and with Spanish, I wanted to do other languages as well, but I wasn't able to, which is sad. With Spanish, I always liked languages, but I just did not know how to work with them. I just didn't work that hard. I didn't know what to do. But I started year 11 on a grade 4, and I ended up getting an 8. And now I'm doing it for A level. So I thought I'd share some of the things that I did with you guys. So then, by the way, this should apply for mostly all languages. Yeah, like all languages, like French, German, Japanese, Mandarin, Dutch, Turkish, like all languages. Number 1, vocab. Like, I know vocab, it seems tedious, but learning vocabulary is the most important for languages. Well, you can, when you need to know what vocabulary you need to learn, you can ask your teachers for a list, or you can look online. Like, I just looked up, AQA GCSE Spanish vocabulary, and on the website, not only did it have most of the vocabulary that you need to learn, but it also had, different phrases, and it also had exam words, because now some of the questions in Spanish exams are in Spanish. And for example, they'll say fill the box with P for positive and and N for negative, but they'll write it in Spanish or in another language. So there it translated it all. So on the website, I mean. So that was so you can do that, or also CGP for Spanish, French, and German. I think they've released these books which has a lot of the vocabulary, and like a lot. And what I recommend that you do for learning vocab, so you can do this in many ways. Flashcards is a good one. So by the end of GCSE, these are all my Spanish flashcards, and now not only those, but now that I do A levels, there's a lot. Not even just that, like even more here. Too much, but anyway, what's it called? So you can use flashcards. You can also use many websites like Memorize, that is really good, and it also has like ready-made like packs of vocabulary. Like if you go on Memorize and look up the language that you need, and GCSE and the exam board, they usually have a lot of the words, so you can start learning there. There's also tiny cards on the App Store, which is linked to Duolingo, where you can make, which is similar. You can either make your own flashcards, or you can make your or you can look them up. And Duolingo, that's also a good website. I'll talk about why it's good in a second. And Quizlet and Cram, they're both good websites. You can either look up ready-made flashcards, or you can not. Oh my gosh, my phone just moved because it vibrated. Because someone texted me. But sorry, I'm really tired. Another way that you can learn vocabulary is putting up Postit Notes around the house, like near the fridge, near where you brush your teeth, near the door, because what's it called? Because then you're like constantly reminded. Like if during GCSE period, and even now, like especially later on in the year when it gets closer to exams, my house is covered with Spanish vocabulary everywhere. In addition to like math formulas and science formulas, blah blah blah. But anyway, what's it called? So, and what I used to do for Spanish, not actually, and Italian, but not so much, but mainly Spanish because I really wanted to do well. With Spanish, with Spanish, what I used to do, I'd print out exam papers, and every single the specimen papers and even the old specification, I'd print them out, I'd do the questions, and then I'd highlight all the words that I didn't know, and I'd make them all into flashcards. Just so then when I got into the exam, I would know the majority of words, so I'd be able to answer the questions better, and also then I could use it in my writing and speaking. And I did this like all the time. Like when they used to give us papers every week or articles, like comprehensions, and every single word I didn't know, I highlighted it and I made it into flashcards. And you may be thinking, oh, but that's so much. If you think that you're going to struggle with learning so much, what I suggest you do is, first of all, start now. Try to learn a certain amount each week. My teacher says, my A-level Spanish teacher told me try learning 5 words a day. But what I do is that I try to learn about 20-30 a week. I know that seems a lot, but it's A-level, and but anyway, usually I don't though, unfortunately. So you can try to learn like 10 a week. So what I recommend you do is just start learning them, test yourself, make sure that you know them all, and then maybe put them apart, and then refresh yourself the day afterwards, and then the week afterwards, and then when it gets to GCSE time, you just have to go through them, and you'll pretty much know them. And then when you start to learn everything on that list, start to read articles or do exam papers, because not only will they help you with your exam technique, and they'll help you get into like practice, like they'll help you practice, but they also give you lots of vocabulary that you need to learn. What I recommend doing, if you look them up, I know it sounds boring to go for a dictionary. What was my best friend during GCSE time, and even now, was Word Reference. Very good website, and it's an app as well. I've downloaded the app, so I just use my phone to look them up. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit. I'm really tired. Another important aspect is grammar. Like, I hated grammar. And I hate grammar now. But what I realized in year 11, was that I needed to start from the basics. So if you're struggling, start from the basics. Start with the present, the past, and the future before you start anything more complicated. What I recommend you do is number 1, practice again. So there's many books, like for example the CGP books. For French, German, and Spanish, they have the special AQA GCSE language grammar and translation workbooks, and this was amazing. Like this saved my life for grammar. Like not only did they explain each grammar on each page, and they also had lots of translation, but they also had lots of examples, and they also told you when you could use that grammar, and I found that so useful. What I used to do also was make flashcards of the main grammar like terms. So like for example here on the big ones, in Spanish, depending on the grammar and on the form, like I, you plural, we, he, she, it, etc. They, you, polite, etc. They'd be different word endings, so I'd learn the endings. So, for example, the preterite, which is the simple past, I know that for AR verbs is este or amostis iron. So when I got to the exam, sometimes if I did, for writing especially, before I'd start doing anything, I'd write down the verb tables, so then I would know it. And there's or if you struggle with grammar, talk to your teachers, because usually they have good techniques to learn. But the number 1 thing I recommend is practice, and maybe you could have a list of the grammar near your bed or near where you brush your teeth, and then you're constantly learning it, because grammar is quite important for GCSE. And speaking of practice, and speaking of grammar, for writing and speaking, since they are for GCSE anyway, the examiners, they want to know that you know the language pretty well, and that you know how to vary your language, not just I like milk and cookies. I went to the shop. I like drawing. I don't like going on holiday. Like I know you wouldn't write that, but they want to know more things. So try to vary your writing. So use the past tense, use the present tense, use the future tense, use the subjunctive. Talk about other people's opinions. Use a range of language. Don't just say I like. Say I'm interested in, or I enjoy, or I am not keen on, or I want to, and also try to use complex sentences. I'm going to do a proper video in a couple of weeks, because I know speaking exams are coming up soon, so I'll do a proper video then on how to vary your writing. And speaking of speaking, practice speaking. Like, I know I said practice like a million times, but with language speaking, you can practice with a friend, you can practice with your Spanish teacher, or with a family friend who knows the language, or Duolingo. As I said, Duolingo is a really good app, because not only does it help you learn grammar, not grammar, a big grammar, but it also helps you learn vocabulary and practice and forming sentences. And also, there's a certain exercise where they give you a sentence and you have to read it out loud, and then they say if it's correct or not. And also learn pronunciation. Like, if you don't know how to pronounce a word, either look it up, but that's not always reliable, or go to your teacher or someone who's native in the language, because in the exam, pronunciation is quite important. And what's it called? Like, for example, in Spanish, double L is pronounced y, but I kept saying in my mock, I kept saying l, like, so it didn't. So the teacher didn't understand what I was saying. And when I started to learn a lot of the pronunciation in Spanish, like when I started to learn how to pronounce certain words properly, like, for example, people in Italian is gente, but people in Spanish is gente, la gente. When I learned the difference and other things, my marks went way up. Like, I went from a 5 to an 8 in like a few months. But that was a lot of things, not just pronunciation. And as I said, practice a lot. Like specimen papers, last year's GCSE papers. If you've run out, you can try You can try articles, or you can try other exam boards. You can use the old spec as well, because I know they won't have everything, but it's still good practice, and it's still a good way where you can get vocabulary. And also, now I'm going to recommend you some books. So, I've already recommended the CGP ones, like the CGP vocab list. And I've also recommended the grammar. Yes. Also, now, I don't have this with me because they released it right after I did my GCSEs, but now CGP have released translation books, and translations. You now have like 2 10 markers, I think, or maybe 12 and 8, but anyway, there's a certain amount of marks in the GCSE is now for translation, so that will be really useful. And speaking of CGP, I used this book. This book was amazing because not only did it include, not only did it allow me to get a lot of grammar, like as you can see here. Not grammar, vocabulary. I highlighted everything I didn't know, and it really helped. We also had reading exercises, listening exercises, translation exercises, both into Spanish and out Spanish, and it was just really useful. Like, they also have one for French and German, and maybe CGP will also. By the way, I forgot to say what this is. This is the exam practice workbook GCSE AQA, but they have it for other exam boards and a non-exam board one on their website. And there's also this book. This book I've never really used that much, but it has lots of vocabulary. It's just, I feel like the only thing with this one is that when you're going through it, it might seem a bit overwhelming. But if you really want to, if you like start now and try to do like 2 pages a day, then I'm sure that's fine. Like with this, I try to make myself do 2 pages a day, so double page a day. And also a good thing about this is that it's topic. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm really struggling with hobbies, like I don't know what to say about hobby, like I don't know the vocabulary about hobbies, still you can go look that up. Or if you say, oh, I just need to remind myself of holidays, you can look it up. And also the answers are at the back, which is really good. And now this video is really long. Sorry guys, I always say that I'm going to try to do shorter videos, but I don't. So next week I'm going to do a video on poetry for English, which is poetry and unseen poetry, and then I'm going to do one on English, and then I'm going to do one on science, and also as I said, getting the best marks for speaking and writing exams for languages. And then who knows, UCAS exams are coming up for us, which they're year 12 exams, so they whatever you get predicted 1 grade higher, and that gets sent to your university. So I need to get BBB or BBC, but anyway, BBC. But I'm just really hoping that it's okay. A levels. Ugh. I wish I was as hardworking as I used to be, but I'm tired. Man, thanks for watching. Okay, that was weird. Bye.